Hi, everyone. So welcome to this webinar co-organized with IFOAM Europe and Natexpo organization. We are very happy to welcome you in this presentation. So we are going to talk about regulation, thanks to Leah Bauer from IFOAM. And after we will make a small presentation of the Natexpo Organic Trade Show in Paris. Maybe Leah, you can introduce you. I will introduce me after, and you can start with your presentation.
Yes, thank you very much, Solène. Welcome, everyone. I'm also very happy to participate in this joint webinar organized together with Natexpo. I'm very excited because we are discussing an interesting and hot topic within our membership. So basically international trade issues. I'm Leah Bauer. I'm a regulation consultant working for IFOAM Organics Europe. Thanks, Solène, for the presentation.
And so I'm Solène Bryon. I'm Director of International Development for SPACE Organization, which is a company organizing events dedicated to organic. And well, Leah, you can start sharing your screen and start the presentation. You have a chat online, so do not hesitate to ask a question. Leah and I will try to get them among our speech and try to answer you directly. In any case, our contact will be at the end of the presentation. There will be also a replay, and for those who want to get this presentation, we can send it to you after by email. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Solène. I hope everyone can see the presentation, the first slide. So the title of this webinar today is the impact of the new EU organic regulation on international trade. But before we jump into the topic, I would like to tell you a few words about our organization, so namely IFOAM Organics Europe, which is part of a global network, a global umbrella. Probably you know IFOAM Organics International, and this global network has several regional bodies, and the one located with a seat in Brussels is IFOAM Organics Europe. So this organization, in this we represent the entire organic food chain and even beyond. So not only organic operators and operator associations are within our membership, so organic farmers, processors, traders, and retailers, but also we involve a wider membership, including certifiers, control bodies, or advisory networks, consultants, researchers, and so on. So everyone who has something to do with organics. Our membership is from more than 30 countries, so not only the EU member states, and we have more than 200 members. While in IFOAM Organics International, we have 800 members from more than 100 countries. And we try to be a voice and support the organic sector in Brussels towards EU institutions based on the principles set by IFOAM, which is health, ecology, fairness, and care. This is a slide just to very quickly explain you the governance and the structure, how we are built and work. We have a two-chamber governance. Once we have a council with delegates from the national assemblies, and there's a board, an elected board of 9 people who are on the top of all operations and governance. And on the different topics, we are working with our interest groups, which are formed from our membership. And also we have several expert groups, working groups, and task forces really focusing on very specialized topics. Yeah, this is a slide just to introduce you how wide our activities are, because the EU regulation itself is just a tiny part, very important, but still tiny part, because we try to relate to each EU policies that have an influence on the situation, the status, and the possibilities of the organic sector. So that was the presentation of our association very briefly, and now I would like to turn towards the topic of today, which is international trade. I hope you are more or less familiar with the organic regulatory framework, which has concluded now to and again a milestone, because for 2 years or even 3 years now, we are working with the new EU organic regulation, which is hardly called new any longer. But with this year, we achieved a new step on the evolution of this regulation, because it's extended to third countries as well. I try to explain you why and how. So we had a kind of import regime based on the old EU regulation that we got used to very quickly, I think. It was based on two different approaches. So according to the old regulation, there were third countries which were considered to be equivalent, operating an equivalent system compared to the one used in the and applied within the EU. And we had a regulation that listed 13 countries which we had international trade within this framework. Once the UK left the EU, so after the Brexit, this was extended with the 14th country. So the UK is also was considered to be equivalent. And from 2015, the Commission started to sign so-called trade agreements with some of these countries, which were already bilateral. So when we were talking about equivalent third countries, it was based on an assessment carried out by the Commission. But when we are talking about trade agreements, it is a mutual cooperation to assess each other's system. And then this two direction of international trade of organic products becomes possible within these trade agreements. The other approach of the Commission was that in the rest of the countries, trade is working with directly with control bodies that are directly operating in third countries. But in these cases, the Commission was not negotiating on the level of the country, but on the level of the control bodies. These control bodies had to apply to the Commission to get recognition. There were two ways for this recognition. One of them was based on equivalence, like in case of the countries, that the control bodies were operating their own system, which were qualified as equivalent to the one used in the EU, and then they were approved, and it was possible for them to issue certificates with which the organic products could be sold on the EU market. The other way was full compliance with the EU organic rules. However, this route was actually never implemented. So we also had regulation with long lists of approved and recognized control bodies under equivalence. However, this list for compliance was always empty. What happened with the new regulation when it was set on 2018, and it started to be applied from 2022, the Commission put forward a new approach, a new import regime, as they call it. The case with the recognized third countries was to a certain extent maintained also with this new regulation. However, there was a clear intention conveyed by this new regulatory text as well, that all these third country approvals should be transferred into trade agreements that I mentioned that are already in place with, for example, the UK, Chile, and Switzerland. So the Commission on this basis started to organize trade negotiations with all the listed third countries, and the regulation foresees these all to be concluded once. I will tell a bit more about the deadlines and transition periods for this work to be done. What happened with the control bodies? The new regulation foresees that all, control body recognition based on equivalence that I explained with the previous slide will be phased out, and all the control bodies have to reapply to the Commission for reassessment according to full compliance. So very simply saying, the Commission's intention was to get rid of this equivalence-based assessment and recognition, and wanted to convey all the control bodies to go under full compliance.
And where can we, Leah, where can we find this list of control bodies compliance agreement?
The control bodies. Yes, that's what I wanted to show you with the next slide also, but it's already mentioned here that for this transference from the equivalence-based system to the compliance-based system, there was a certain transition period that already ended with the beginning of this year, so the 1st of January 2025. And the Commission, based on the reapplication, started to reassess the control bodies applications, and the approvals were published in batches. So we had a certain regulation, what the number of which you can see here in this slide is 2021 per 1378. Mm-hmm. And altogether, with 4 amendments of this regulation, the Commission, until the end of last year, published all the 48 CBs that are already recognized according to compliance. So about the transitions period, here you can see the correct information, that the transition period to shift to the new system for third countries, equivalent third countries, there are 5 years in place, and for the control bodies there were 3 years available, but it's already we had the end of this period. So yes, the CBs were recognized in several stages, as I mentioned, and from 1st of January this complete compliance approach applies in its entirety. What happened in practice in the meantime? So most of the operators were certified already in 2024 in third countries according to the equivalence system. And during 2024, the control bodies started their reassessment procedure. They received the letters of approval. So sometime from the autumn of last year, some of the control bodies already approved could start their inspections and certification work already on the basis of compliance. But still, most of the operators will receive their first inspection according to compliance only this year. So for this reason, the Commission acknowledged the fact that a certain derogation period will be necessary for the issuance of the certificate of inspections, which is a consignment related or a so-called transaction verification document. Still based on the old certificates, the old operator certificates based on equivalence, and these old operator certificates have to maintain their validity for a certain time. After a long discussion and negotiations between the Commission and stakeholders, finally they published the regulation with the derogation period until the 15th of October this year. When the control bodies still have this opportunity to adapt to the new system. However, unfortunately, we see that it's not actually working properly. So still the Commission tries to enforce that the new operator certificates according to compliance has to be issued before the new COIs, this certificate of inspections, are issued. So there are as far as we know, some blockages and disruptions in the flow of maintaining international trade with these third countries. So, yes, here in a few of the next slides, I wanted to reflect a little bit what this full compliance actually means in practice. So it really means that in the third countries, those control bodies have to use the EU organic regulation actually word by word. There are two topics in which there is a room for certain variances. There is a possibility to receive specific authorizations for the use of products and substances as inputs in organic production in third countries. For this, the basis is given by the Regulation 2021/1165, which is the general regulatory act where all the allowed inputs are listed for organic production in the EU. And here there is a specific annex dedicated to third country approvals. So it means that a few inputs which are requested to be used by the control bodies operating in third countries can be approved by the Commission with a targeted use in specific third countries for specific purposes. And the other topic when a certain variance is allowed is the definition of catastrophic circumstances. It is quite clear and obvious, I think, because in any case, these catastrophic circumstances are very specific and, of course, related to the conditions that are happening regionally within the EU either. So for this, the assessment of these situations can be done, of course, according to the local circumstances within the third countries as well. So yes, here I just wanted to reflect back a little bit what does it mean compared to the old equivalence system, because equivalence meant that another third countries or the control bodies implemented production and control system. It was thoroughly assessed by the Commission, and it was found to be to fulfill the same objectives and principles as the EU organic regulation. And however, so now compared to this situation, the EU organic regulation fully applies in third countries. So now I would turn a bit to more practical grounds, because I would like to show you a little bit what feedback we receive from our memberships about the key challenges with this change in the import system, in the international trade system. So the basic key challenges for third countries are now this new situation of the word-by-word compliance with the EU regulation. We receive feedback that most operators still do not understand fully the rules yet. You know, it's even very difficult for operators within the EU because of the very complex structure of the EU organic regulation. We have to work with the Basic Act and with almost 40 secondary legislative acts. So it's a real challenge to understand it properly and to understand what is applicable for specific operators. It's also a challenge for third countries that now with this new system, the surveillance roles are completely transferred to the EU Commission. So the national authority of the third country is not involved in this process. Under the new organic regulations, there are now entirely new rules for groups of operators. It's a very specific type of operator, which was introduced under the EU organic regulation only in 2022. With the old organic regulation, there was no such category. However, in third countries, these groups are already existing. they have been operating according to national or private standards, and now they have to adapt to the new EU rules. The new rules also mean a kind of strengthened control. There is a new concept that has to be adapted by third countries as well, because there is a specific focus on precautionary measures and on internal quality systems to assure the prevention of contamination of organic products and commingling with conventional products. And there is a very strictly implemented product traceability as well. There are very specific measures in case of detection of unauthorized substances. So these measures are now have to be enforced on operators and on CB level as well. CB is the control body, to be clear, sorry. So there is a need for very serious and long official investigations to determine the source and the cause in many of the cases, during which there is a blocking of the consignments which apply immediately. So these new rules have to be adapted also in third countries as well. And in addition to the normal EU organic rules which apply within the EU, there are some specific, more enforced and stricter controls on the so-called high products that are determined by the Commission per product and per country. So in some specific cases, these stringent control rules are even more serious.
Okay. Leah, we just have two questions. There is a question from Margot Dubois. She's asking that if within the derogation until October 50, does that mean that third countries operator will still have time to comply with the new control rules, in particular the two producers criterion?
With the derogation is actually for the issuance of the certificates and the validity of the certificates. So I think it cannot be considered as a deadline for the implementation of the production rules. It must happen earlier. The inspection has to happen before this deadline, and the new operator certificate based on the inspection, which is based on the already implemented rules, has to be issued until the 15th of October. So it's a tricky question, but it's not, you must not consider it on the level of operator.
Production. Okay.
Yes.
And a question from Julia Lauter. She's asking that in practice, does that mean that the surveillance role is transferred completely to the EU Commission?
It means that before, when the equivalence was in place, in those countries where there were some specific national standards in application, of course, on the basis of the operation of the CBs, there was an audit and surveillance by the national authorities with full compliance. You have to apply directly the EU organic rules, also on the level of controls and also on the level of the surveillance and the auditing. So control bodies, let's say, are directly responsible towards the EU organic, the EU Commission.
Okay, and is there a list on the products you were talking about considered as high risk? Can we get this list with a document, maybe?
Yes, high-risk products. There is a specific regulation that determines this approach, but it's more on the controls that have to be applied in case of these high-risk products. At present, the Commission issues guidance letters, or let's say letters, in which there is a list of those countries and those products which have to be considered as high risk by the control bodies. So it's very difficult that it's not open for the public, and it's even not really open for the public on which basis they categorize. So why these products and countries are selected as representing a high risk. We know from discussions of the Commission with member states how they define it. So it's basically based on office cases, but we as an umbrella and as an advocacy organization, we are also really pushing the Commission to share this information, especially on the categories, but on the methodology of how these products and countries are selected.
Okay.
Yes, I think we finished with the questions for the time being. So
yes, there is just an interesting
there's one
remark from Christian.
Okay.
But it's more for the debate.
Okay, so we carry on, and maybe we can come back to this because I will reflect a bit more on grower groups as well, and maybe I will you will receive the information. So yes, here in this slide, I listed the main challenges for grower groups. As I mentioned, they already exist in certain countries, and with the new EU organic regulations, there are new provisions. The most challenging of these are related to the composition, because the regulation requires that only organic or in conversion farmers can be members of a grower group. There are some size or turnover limitations that might be challenging. I will reflect on it a little bit later. There is a maximum size set for each grower groups, which is now 2,000 members per group, and we are aware that groups with a much higher membership are already existing. There is a specific requirement that these groups must have a legal personality according to the national legal framework of the specific third country. That might be also challenging from some of the third countries to find the right way and right structure to fit for this provision. An internal control system has to be put in place with people in charge to operate this control system, very specific training requirements, and up to this internal control system, there is the control body's third-party control. The members of the grower group have to operate a joint marketing system. They have to be located in geographic proximity, and the members can apply for one grower group only for one specific product. So we receive different information from different third countries, so it might happen that one of these requirements are easy to follow in a certain country, while others seem to be very difficult for them. Here I borrowed two slides from FIBL because Florentin Meinhausen specifically worked a lot on assessing the situation. There was a joint webinar also organized by IFOAM Organics International and FIBL, where they provided very deep insight into the challenges that the grower groups face now. And so I found two interesting slides. Maybe I can show you here that, for example, with the size limitations, they explore that quite many grower groups have already members with a larger farm size than it would fit into the regulatory framework. And when there is no compliance properly with the size limitation, there is the limitation on the turnover, which can be also challenging from some of the operators. So some of the grower groups which are working with those specific products that represent a higher value, like banana, honey, or some specific fruits from Latin America. So these problems are different according to the regions. They also assess that according to FIBO's assessment, there are about 2,000 organic producers groups that are already existing in third countries. And let's say 1,500 of them already have an internal control system. They see that now the grower groups involve almost 1 million organic farmers in different countries, in different third countries. And so from this whole wide range, at the moment, it seems that only 30% of these grower groups can immediately comply with the new organic requirements, and 70% face really severe challenges to comply. So that's what I wanted to present you briefly about the import challenges. And if we still have a few minutes, I just want to reflect very quickly on export issues. But I don't know if we still have some questions.
There is a remark from Esther, and I maybe wanted to ask if IFOAM is dealing with that kind of matters, as she's saying that the premiums, asking if the EU is aware that the premium for organic does not cover the additional higher costs. Is this something an issue that you do work on to sensibilize the EU to help,
Not specifically IFOAM Organics Europe. However, FIBO already presented already a study on assessing what financial consequences the implementation of the new regulatory framework has on third country operators. So I think it's very deeply assessed. There is some specific studies conducted in a few third countries as well. So I think you can really check out the FIBO website for data and assessment.
Okay. And there is another question in discussion with Commission. Does it seem that they understand the difficulties of compliance and the risk of disruption to the supply of organic products on the European markets?
Yeah, it's a tricky question because I think the discussions are ongoing and all the challenges we try to make the Commission aware, and I think they also received all information. However, and I didn't even mention, because I really wanted to reflect on the challenges that operators face, that still control bodies are struggling with the implementation of the new rules. These are covering really technical issues about the issuance of the certificates, about this derogation period, about struggles with the traces system. And even I think they could not come over this first phase when the technical issues has to be resolved. So it's very difficult. And I think the less understood topic is the challenges of grower groups. So I think it is not... so there is still time for discussion. However, we also understand that the most of the consequences we can assess around the end of the first year. So that's what I heard also from FIBO in this webinar, that they still try to assess what's going on in third countries and to really be able to present data and proper information to the Commission to get them understood.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So we can follow with your case of exports.
Yeah, just very quickly, because it's also a very hot topic nowadays, because exports are not really regulated under the EU organic regulation. It always depends on the third country. However, I copied here this Article 44, which reflects on exports. But yes, it always depends on the requirements set by the third country in question, where the organic operator is exporting to. But there's a very interesting topic related to export issues, and I wanted to explain a bit about the status quo, because this is a case from which we receive most of the questions day by day. So it's related to a European Court ruling that was published last autumn in October. And it was a consequence of a legal case initiated by a German company. Very briefly, the essence of it is that there is a company that produced food supplements made of organic fruits and added vitamins and iron. And of course, the German authority ruled that they have to remove the EU organic references because the EU organic regulation does not allow fortification with vitamins and minerals. But the claim of this German company was that it's not the same for products which are coming from, for example, the United States, because there the NOP, the US organic regulation, does allow such fortification. And when similar products are brought to the EU under the EU-US equivalence agreement, they can hold the EU organic logo. So that's how this case went through to the EU Court of Justice, which published a very tricky legal assessment, so a decision. And it also ruled out that these products cannot bear the EU organic regulation, the EU organic logo, but only the one of the third country in question. So in this specific question, the NOP organic logo. What was the problem with this ruling? That it really initiated a lot of questions in the organic sector, how we have to understand this ruling. According to the most narrow interpretation of this ruling was that only the specific organic fortified products cannot be brought under the equivalence based trade agreement to the EU and have the EU organic references. According to some other interpretations, it has to be extended to the category of organic processed products. But in the end, it became more and more clear, and according to the Commission's statement as well, it is a very generally interpreted ruling, which means that actually imported organic products brought under the equivalence agreements will not be allowed to bear the EU organic logo, very simply because these products are not fully compliant with the EU organic regulation. It cannot be referred to be EU organic even if these products are used in processed products within the EU as ingredients. So finally, according to fears, this would really put under risk the whole equivalence-based system. Now the status quo is that the Commission is still not publishing an official statement and an official opinion about the interpretation. However, they declared already several times that they are working on a solution. The first thing that we are really expecting is the Commission's communication towards the member states. What we already know is that they truly believe that this ruling will not put the equivalence-based trade agreements under risk. They want to carry on working with it, but they are still trying to find a legal solution for maintaining them. And their idea is that to work with a kind of negative list of those products and processing techniques, let's say, which can never be part of such a trade agreement. However, still the legal framework is under elaboration, let's say. So that's what we know at the moment. And yes, I'm really happy also to receive and answer questions as far as I'm able to about these export issues. And yes, here I would close basically what I wanted to say, and I want to give a big thanks to our sponsors who make us possible to work on the regulation and advocate for the organic sector under the EU Organic Regulatory Framework. A very interesting project is now working on the basis of the funding coming from these sponsors that I wanted to mention, is that we started this year to assess those burdens that the organic operators have to face and that are coming really from the EU Organic Regulatory Framework. But anyone who is interested in this topic, I'm very happy to give more information. So thank you very much for the kind attention, and still I'm here available for your questions. And now, yes, I would like to pass the word to Solène.
Thank you, Leah. There is just one final question about your case, the area case you evoked. At the end, won't these products have to comply with the compliance regime anyway? With the change of the rules and the deadlines we have this year?
No, because the question in this case is that if these affect those products, the EU under the trade agreements, which are still maintained to be based on equivalence.
Okay.
So yes, for the rest of the products which are coming under compliance are not, so it's not under risk. However, the third country agreements are
maintained,
are still in question. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So I'm just taking 5 minutes because we are partners with IFOAM, and I represent the Natexpo Organic Trade Show, which will take place this year in Paris. So maybe you can switch the slide, Leah, please.
Yes.
So you have seen on the partners of IFOAM that there is the Sinadisbio. Actually, Natexpo is a trade show owned by the Federation Natexpo, which gathers several associations on the French market to promote the organics markets and to promote organic products. So there are 9 professional associations: the Sinabio for organic food company, Sinadiet for dietary supplements, Sinadisbio for distribution, and Cosmebio for cosmetics, and Foribio for production. We are a SPAS organization, and we are a company dedicated to events and trade shows on organics. And we started to organize a Natexpo trade show since 2013, as we wanted to put our expertise on the service of the industry of organics. If you can switch, Leah, please. Sorry, I'm not managing the... So a small show identity card, though. Natexpo this year will take place during 3 days from 30th of November to 2 of December. And we are changing location. Actually, it will be in the center of Paris. We are going to welcome 900 exhibitors coming from different sectors. The idea of Natexpo is that this is a whole chain trade show. So we are covering all the organic sectors such as food, cosmetic and hygiene products, dietary supplement, ingredient and raw material, eco-friendly and home products, service and equipment for retail and brands, actually, which are supposed to be, which are going to be sustainable, of course. And on the side of the visitor, we are waiting for 12,000 visitors coming from mostly from distribution. In France, you have two main channels of distribution: the dedicated organic distribution with stores such as Biocoop, Naturalia, La Vie Claire. Maybe you have heard of it. Maybe you work with them actually, and also the big distribution such as Carrefour, Auchan, Leclerc, and everyone. So the buyers of these chains are visiting Natexpo to meet new products and their former providers. And we also have specific distribution channels, for example, coming from pharmacy, parapharmacy, for the hygiene and cosmetics products, and also processor, because we have an ingredient and a raw material part, and also services. So this year, Natexpo is an important year for French market, because since the beginning of the year, we have registered an increase of sales in the organic store by 7%, which is a good sign of a rebound, because as you may all know, the organic market has been living in its conception quite difficulties in the pandemic. So we are living this rebound, and we still want to help and promote and focus on the big issues for the market and the big trends, the innovation, while to still be a good tool for dynamizing the market. So this year there will be the several highlights, such as organic sector speaks out with several conferences, and also a friendly moment for open for visitors and exhibitors, with an opening at the evening on the Monday, a special program called the Local Shop, helping the exhibitors to get in touch with the independent stores, and the Organic Retailer Village, which is a specialist retailer highlight with their commitment. So those retailers we're talking about, like Biocoop, La Vie Claire, and Naturalia. And also, as every year, we want to make some innovation to help the market. We are going to push some new features with 3 very specific thematic days on conferences with fruit and vegetables, which is one of the big sector helping the stores and the sales in stores, the global health and the food services. So there will be a fruit and vegetable hub for the first time, with animation, exhibitors, and contents. Also, we are working on the Natexpo Award, which are an historical animation on the show, but this year we are launching a vegan category. We also launching a specific program called Pharma Connect, dedicated to pharmacy. And also, as I told, we are coming back in the center of Paris, which is quite a big news. And we are working on an investor operation for startups and small companies. So just about the Natexpo, if you want to join as a visitor or as an exhibitor, you have my contact at the end, and feel free to send me an email and ask for more information. We have some very last question, Leah. I don't know if you have time to read it, by Pierre Dubuit, who asked if you can specify what geographical proximity is, what is the criteria based on?
Yes, this requirement is quite vague in the EU organic regulation, but it defines only that the members of the group has to be located in a geographical proximity within a member state of a third country. See, the only exact provision as that they have to be within a third country, but no more specification is included in the regulation. So yes, there is room for different interpretations. And what can be also tricky or challenging from some of the existing grower groups, that they cannot have members from regions that are on both sides of a border between 2 countries. So it's not possible any longer.
Thank you very much. So I don't know if there are last questions. In any case, we will send you the replay of this webinar to all of you after. You will have Leah contact and also mine. So feel free to get in touch with us. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attention. Thank you, Leah, for our great collaboration on this project, and have a good day, everyone.
Yes, thank you very much from my side too for the excellent organization as well as for the audience. And yes, I'm still available for further questions on my contact email. Thanks a lot. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye. Je fais divine, hein.